10-4. The, the queen's up in this bitch. Nice. Right. Sam just mentioned it's whiskey time, and you know, I really wish we were by an actual fire, drinking whiskey, talking about this shit. But we'll do what we can. We can do what we got to do virtually, but we got to prioritize getting together and doing the real thing sometime soon. That's where the magic happens, you know. I think we've proven that time after time. But I'm really glad that you're doing these and getting the perspective of a diverse group of people and kind of just seeing how all these technologies are changing our lives. Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I think that's one of the coolest things that I saw early with this technology is like going out and doing the research and scheduling interviews and exploring people's problems. That's always been just a royal pain in the ass to do. And then to like take all that information and turn it into something insightful that can guide your product development, has taken saints that are just willing to do stuff that's extremely difficult, and now we've got these agents that can help us, and so we can focus on having the conversations and talking about our problems and identifying opportunities and then just let the robots rip. Yeah, I am Earth to Travis, the ugly Travis, one side of the double-headed goblin. um have been Raid Guild since season one. So post COVID, kind of went
Heck yeah!
all in on crypto and found the DAO OGs and some people that were actually doing this shit. Like I explored other communities and there are a lot of talk and a lot of pretend, but since the very beginning, Raid Guild itself has been an agency trying to figure out these new methods of coordination, and that was really exciting to me. And then Dow House was a very big part of my life for a long time, something I'm extremely passionate about. So V3, I think, was our first big release there. And recently I've just been in the AI rabbit hole. Yes, sir. Please don't call me a project manager. I made the mistake of being good at that type of shit way too early and got pinned. But yeah, like, most of the work has been, at a product level. Right now, I'm working for a startup called Synthweave, and came in. They were actually doing some interviews of people who are using tools like they were trying to create, and were kind of like blown away by how far I was pushing some of this stuff, and so decided to bring me in, and I've been working with them since about September, and primarily doing a lot of customer research in the very beginning, and then prioritizing kind of improving our tool. Some of the ideas early on were, let's make AI multiplayer. Right now, we all have these superpowers in silos. And so, how can we allow a team to share context and collaborate on skills and workflows? And what does that kind of look like? And so, it was really exciting to me. And, I think don't want to already get doomer, but I think, we kind of see the signs on the wall with like the SaaS apocalypse and like the shifting kind of startup landscape. And I don't really believe that it's going to be done in the same way that it has been over the past couple of decades, with the next hot team coming out and everybody signing up and VCs cashing out and all that kind of shit. And so think we kind of started realizing that, and instead of trying to create this tool that's friendly for a target segment, let's like figure out how to make it work for us. And so really shifting the focus on building this super tool. It's great. It's super strong tech that we've been working on for a while, so it's very powerful. But how do we help it do what we do? And with that, like, what is it that we actually do? um, and so some of that, has just been exploratory. Over the past like 6 weeks, I've been working on a client project as we were kind of exploring some consulting angles, and just ways to generate revenue, so we're not just burning, but actually getting some stuff coming in. So it's kind of like a forward deployed engineering type engagement. The company runs family offices, and family offices being when a baller family has enough money that they need to run it like a company. You come in, and this group has their advisors and their process in order to kind of manage the fortunes of high net worth individuals. Um, and so, yeah, they, brought us in, started talking, figuring out kind of what the most painful workflows they are currently experiencing, and, where we could kind of make the most bang for the buck. So I just kind of got in the trenches over the last 6 weeks, and I think what we're going to see is, and you guys are probably experiencing it with some of the tools, but there's a lot of cleanup that needs to be done in order to make these companies data agent friendly, human friendly. So a lot of grunt work and auditing and moving files around and shit. But ultimately, kind of what it resulted in is an MCP server that connects to their Microsoft 365 ecosystem. So pretty exciting stuff,
Yeah, that's
It
really
connects
interesting.
OneDrive, Outlook, and SharePoint, and basically has access to all of that data. And then that's kind of the core engine of the entire system, but that gives us the ability now to create custom workflows for various things that need to get done in this organization. And so I built a couple of skills with them now, and then we're trying to figure out where it goes from here.
That's really interesting, and it aligns a lot with what we've been talking about recently with RaidGuild.ai. But yeah, I guess you're walking into, um, someone else's business, and they've been doing things the way that they do things. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work very well with agent infrastructure. And, then it seems like plugging in an MCP server actually makes a lot of sense, to try, kind of expose it out to the framework you guys are building.
Yeah. And the
Um,
exciting thing about going into a company, it's not the sexiest thing to tweet about or whatever, but they actually do things, right? And so it's concrete. It's not abstract. It's like, okay, cool. This is what you're doing on a regular basis. How can we make that easier? And then how can we make the outputs of that continue to improve the system? So every iteration, the system gets stronger. And then what are you going to focus on now that you don't have to worry about this BS?
how does how do you guys measure this success in that? So I can imagine you have a phase where you're trying to explore and figure out what the problem is, and then you're kind of building different AI helpers and automations around that. And then
Mm-hmm.
is it like, are you having any issues with user adoption, or is it adding a lot of value right off, or is there buy-in issues?
Yeah, there's a lot kind of embedded in that question. And measuring success right now, I don't think we've done a good job of putting metrics in place early on that say, hey, we're going to know that this worked when we achieve this. So there could definitely be some improvement around that. Um, this was run kind of as a pilot by mandated by the CEO, who's really excited about the agentic capabilities, and so we got the buy-in from the top and got a pilot team to work with that has the organization has made this a priority for them to give us feedback and to approve it. But we haven't done a broader rollout to really see, how it's going to be adopted or what it's actually going to change in these people's like day-to-day life. And it kind of like concerning because I think it was probably almost 2 years ago now, but MIT had that study that 95% of the AI implementations have failed. And I don't doubt that one bit. And the problem is they have really high expectations. They want some magic. And this shit just isn't magic at first. It's configuring, it's brute force, and it's really like providing usage and giving it cycles and iterating that starts adding value. And so companies are really going to have to wait, and be patient before. But I do believe we need to get those metrics in place, but then realizing, oh shit, the file's got to be cleaned up first. Oh shit, we need this lame ass connector to draw in all these different data sources. Then once we get those kind of foundation pieces in place, working on the workflows and figuring out, how to bring some wow into it.
You mentioned forward deployed developer, kind of the new buzz term going around, and maybe a little bit of people like stepping back, managing their expectations a little bit, understanding that this stuff does take a lot of brute force and configuration and iteration. Um, what is like a forward deployed developer or forward deployed agency? What does that actually mean, or to you at least?
Uh, it's being in the trenches, being on site, seeing people, how they use these tools, and then being able to just get their grind on solving the problems. Not writing a spec sheet and handing it off to somebody for approval for the next round of prioritization. It's like, okay, cool. you got some problems that you just described to me. Boom, I'm in the console next, crafting up a solution and shipping code.
Right. So you guys are building a framework at your current startup that you're at, and you're you're forward deploying into companies to help do it. But I'm kind of curious about your actual workflow. What tools are you using yourself? Are you mainly in Cloud or using Codex or local stuff, or are you doing things with OpenClaw? Or I know you were using Eliza way back. What kind of things are you using now?
So I've been a Clyde Maxi for a long time, and now I'm fortunate that that tool is available to me at work. So I've kind of turned it into like my work truck, basically. And I'm using a combination of Cowork in Cloud Desktop and Cloud Code. And I basically kind of feed those off of each other all day long. I'm just banging back and forth between them. And I'm using, Cowork kind of as understanding the full context of everything that I'm working on. I use projects in Cowork, and basically help it plan what we need to do. So it's always up to date with what I'm working on and why. And then when the work needs to get done, I'm spinning up prompts and spitting them into Cloud Code. Now, whether that's like research that needs to be done or code that needs to be written, I'm getting, all of that stuff out of kind of my primary context. So co-work doesn't bog down writing code or doing a bunch of research. It's keeps kind of clear on where we're at and what's the plan. And then I get all the details done in Cloud Code, and we'll have that provide a report that I'll then put back into Cloud Desktop with kind of the sit rep of what happened. So it's just this kind of constant cycle with work between those two tools. Then go ahead.
Yeah, well, you mentioned almost like a priority list or a to-do list. Are you using desktop in that way, like keeping track of tasks?
Yeah, it always kind of has the plan. I'm keeping track of my tasks right now in our Synthweave app, but those have changed so much, right? It's not like I've got this queue of tasks that are ready. It's pretty dynamic, and it's changing,
Yeah,
every day based on what's happening with the plan, and that's different from any project management that we've had in the past, but it's kind of cool system, I think. So yeah, co-work is kind of keeping up with what needs to be done and why.
are you using things like the workflow or automations, like nightly, daily tasks, things like that, scheduled tasks?
I'm not running too many cron jobs on anything. Most of the stuff that I do is pretty monitored and engaged. I don't have too many long running tasks happening. Um, Finding it better, that work feels a lot better when you can do that. Get the damn robot thinking for a while and not have to be here babysitting.
Yeah.
But there's the more exciting stuff, I think, is what I do at night. Is the agent work, and that's right now Hermes. I love Hermes. Was into OpenClaw, like you mentioned. I was, working with Eliza Studios back in the day, so I've kind of always been nerdy on this shit, and I have just like fallen in love with Hermes, and so my primary agent is named Civart, and that's what she's on. And right now it's primarily GLM 5.2 is what I'm using. Unfortunately, America can't release a good open source solution. So, um, China Maxine on CivArt right now, and
Nice. How are you accessing the GLM models?
through Venice. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
all right.
pretty,
Nice.
pretty big on Venice, and I don't do any like cost comparisons. The Chinese models are cheap enough that I don't have to worry about it.
That's awesome. So with all the different kind of angles that you're working, what kind of things still seem broken? I know that like context and memory has been issues in the past, maybe getting better. Are there other things where you're just, the brute forcing and that kind of stuff is there things that still seem like they need to be fixed or
I
maybe
still think
risky
I
or
still think the collaborative stuff hasn't been solved. You know,
yeah.
even when I'm going hard and doing my work, the team doesn't really benefit from that brute force, and so we've got to like be able to share the value. And if you're grinding on something and I'm grinding on something, and there's some overlap, figuring out how what you do is can help me, and what I do can help you. Um, I know that's some big weird shit, but I don't think that that's been solved, and to me that's something that's really important.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's like this has actually came up a few times, the atomization of workers, which isn't necessarily a bad thing as long as they can still figure out a way to coordinate and collaborate and have some kind of business intelligence that goes forward. So it's
Yep.
not just a bunch of islands floating away from each other all the time.
Right,
Um,
right. Yeah, I've always, thought of like software development as a team sport, like let's fucking make it fun, let's jam. And like now we're just all kind of on these solo missions, and that's cool. I mean, we can get a lot of work done, but is it something that we enjoy doing is still yet to be determined, I think.
that was another interesting point that someone brought up. It's like, let or people have the freedom now to do what they want to do, which is like
Mhm.
pointing that passion at something is great. But then when it's more of a group sport, then it's like how do we align all these different passions together to actually do something cool together, and
Right, right.
yeah, that's kind of interesting. um yeah, so like with the way things are going, um where do you think in 6 months, in a year, do you think we've got uh optimistic future, or is the end is nigh?
Oh man. Well, I think you guys pretty much know my typical bent towards cynicism. 2017 is rapidly approaching, and I think it's going to be a big year. I think whether it goes down exactly like the article or not, there's going to be a lot of shit that's completely different, and that's almost 6 months away. Um, so I'm old school, low life, high tech. Um, I'm optimistic about Doom, so I kind of like that shit. It doesn't scare me. Um, concerned of my lack of ammunition, but no, I think it gets ugly, man. This shit software is gonna eat the world. People aren't gonna know what to do with themselves. Um, and but I have a lot of hope in that, and I think that it's going to encourage us to come together in person to think about those things of like, what do we now want to do as a group, what matters to us, and my hope is that, we get these agents dialed in to do the grunt work, and that allows us to do the good shit, you know?
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's kind of a this stuff is changing so fast. So in 6 months, yeah, who knows like how far it's going to go, but it's changing faster than most people, like even people like us that are trying to like hold on to the edge as
Right.
hard as we can barely do it. It's like riding a bull, but majority of people are just going to be like, wait, what's happening now? you know
No, I mean, this shit is not normie friendly, and I have no idea what normie friendly looks like for all of this stuff. I mean, we've been banging on keyboards for our whole lives, and the primary objective of my personal agent right now is to keep me from getting completely overwhelmed by the fire hose that is Twitter and YouTube, and the speed with all this shit is changing. Um, and so, normal people will not do that. And so figuring out, how to make that valuable right now, I'm not sure that that's valuable or healthy to be as far, into this rabbit hole as we all are. It is certainly not sustainable. Doing doing a week's worth of work every day sounds really cool, but it hurts,
yeah, I was just thinking about that because another thing that I've heard people kind of saying is they have their work project and their agent system they're doing there, and they have these different contexts, and a lot of people have their personal agent where they're managing their personal life, which um, you know you're doing 100 hours of work a day, and it's just too much context switching, and it's just like hard to keep some things like separated. So I might need to hire
Yeah,
a personal agent.
fucking army.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man. Yeah, we're trying to keep these around 30 minutes, but usually, if you got to drop, then um, totally cool. We'll hang out for a second and keep chatting. If anyone else has any questions, um, can drop them now in the last few minutes. But thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, man, my pleasure. Thanks for putting in the work. The awesomest people I could possibly hope to be here are here, and I wish I had more time with you all.
Yeah, man, we got to spend time together, and um, yeah, it's crazy how aligned some of the research and the things we're doing right now really is, which kind of makes sense, but we're in our own bubbles.
Yeah, I mean, we've all, had our heads in similar places for a long time, and so figuring out how this new tech can advance some of that stuff, that's one of the most interesting things to me. Is it's like making me more bullish on some of the stuff that we've been pushing for, 5 years prior to this kind of AI wave. I think this technology is going to give us